So this is information about Act 2 in A View from a Bridge. The act is introduced by Alfieri, the lawyer, and in his opening statement he says, Catherine told me later that this was the first time they'd been alone in the house. Obviously he's talking about Catherine and Rodolfo, and in Act 2 at the beginning we see how strong Catherine and Rodolfo's relationship has become. He reassures her that his feelings are genuine about her despite what Eddie has implied. So she questions him about whether he really wants to be with her, whether he would still want to marry her if they would move to Italy, but he reassures her that yes, he would. He realises the hold that Eddie has over Catherine, and he tries to persuade her to break away from him, but Catherine is still quite reluctant to do that and to make that step. We then see the moment when Eddie enters after Catherine and Rodolfo have been alone together in the flat. This moment is a shocking moment in the play, and it's a catalyst, it's the key moment that changes things. So Eddie comes back drunk and angry. He realises what has been happening and how close Rodolfo and Catherine now are, and he orders Rodolfo to leave. Catherine also attempts to leave and said if Rodolfo is going then so is she, and Eddie then grabs her and kisses her. We spoke a lot about the kiss and about how this shows that Eddie's completely overstepped the bounds of decency. He's gone too far, and that's why this moment is the catalyst for the change in the play. We talked about what a kiss could signify, and we talked about how if in sexual violence, in crimes of sexual violence, it's about the power and the control that that person can have rather than necessarily the act itself. He kisses Rodolfo as well when he protests about him kissing Catherine, and we talked about some of the reasons why he could have done that, perhaps to show Catherine about his fears that Rodolfo is homosexual. He's trying to show her maybe that he's not the person that she thinks he is. It could be to embarrass him, but there was lots of things that we talked about for the reasons for this kiss. Afterwards, Catherine says she will kill him, and we realise now that he's gone too far, and even Catherine has decided that she can't listen to anything that he says anymore. At the end of this bit of the scene, Eddie says, "Don't make me do nothing, Catherine, don't make me do nothing," suggesting that if Rodolfo and Catherine, even if they did anything or tried to do something, they would be powerless to act if he decided to do something. So again, we've got this idea of power and control that Eddie has. Alfieri sees that Eddie has lost control when Eddie goes to see him again. He knows that this tragedy is now inevitable, but he is powerless himself to do anything to change the situation. Eddie asks for his help, and we might feel sympathy as the audience for him at this point, even though we hate what he's done to Catherine and Rodolfo, because he does seem so helpless and so vulnerable. He's a really desperate man at this point. Alfieri tries to tell him, just put it out of your mind. Again, he says that no law has been broken, he has to let nature take its course, but Eddie ignores him, leaves his lawyer's office, and immediately makes a phone call to the Immigration Bureau reporting Marco and Rodolfo. He then goes back to the house when Beatrice tells Eddie that Catherine and Rodolfo are going to be getting married. This really establishes Catherine's independence and the fact that Eddie no longer has any power of her. The cousins, Marco and Rodolfo, are now upstairs and they're sharing with other immigrants. They're not in the Carbone's house anymore. So Eddie realises the consequences of his betrayal. Not only will Marco and Rodolfo be deported, but other illegal immigrants will also be arrested. So he's worried what the families will do to him if all of the immigrants are picked up. And he's now going to be despised by everybody, all of the community, just like Vinnie Bolzano that we learnt about in Act 1. He's now an outcast after he's informed on his family members. The 4 immigrants are led out of the house when the immigration officers come. Marco spits in Eddie's face. Eddie threatens to kill him, and the neighbours all turn away from Eddie. So we see how Eddie has lost the respect of everybody close to him and near to him. Beatrice discovers the betrayal and she simply says, "My God, what did you do?" This act that Marco does where he spits at him is really the ultimate insult for Eddie, because it's carried out in front of all of the neighbours and nobody will support him, nobody's listening to him, and he's now completely on his own. We then see a scene in the prison where Alfieri is asking for Marco's reassurance that he won't attack Eddie. Marco won't agree because he feels that Eddie should pay for what he's done, but Catherine and Rodolfo urge him to agree because they want Marco to be at their wedding. The tension is building steadily, and this is only enhanced by Eddie's absence. And Catherine has also shown that she is now she's now completely changed how she feels about Eddie, and her hatred is very clear when she says, "To hell with Eddie, nobody is going to talk to him again if he lives to 100. Marco finally agrees after Alfieri points out that he can at least work for 6 weeks before the trial to get bail from prison and attend the wedding. Beatrice is also preparing to go to the wedding, but Eddie says that if she goes, she can't go back to him, again showing that he would feel betrayed if she went against him, and the fact that Beatrice is still willing to obey Eddie also shows us a little bit more about what their relationship is like. Catherine verbally and viciously attacks Eddie and calls him a rat that bites people when they sleep, which shows that this situation is now there's no way back for Eddie from this point. Beatrice tells Catherine she can't go to her wedding because she can't betray Eddie, and then Eddie comes in, tells Marco to apologise for taking away his name. So he's concerned that Marco has taken away any respect that anybody had for him. And Eddie keeps pushing and pushing until he forces a confrontation between himself and Marco. Marco calls Eddie an animal, and Eddie then lunges at Marco, who strikes him. Eddie then draws a knife and Marco turns it so that it stabs Eddie. And as he dies, Eddie says he has been wronged by Catherine, by Rodolfo, by Marco, and by Beatrice. And as an audience, we are left wondering how we feel about that, whether we think that Eddie is the victim or whether other people have created this situation. Alfieri concludes the play saying that he still loves Eddie as he allowed people to see him as he was. So in Act 2, the main things that we need to think about for the controlled assessment are how the relationship with Catherine and Eddie changes, how Catherine gets to the point where she feels that she can't forgive Eddie for everything that he's done, and how Eddie creates the situation that ultimately ruins their relationship. If you look at the next video, that will tell you exactly the things that you should be focusing on for the controlled assessment.